Today on the Big 6 in 60, the Spurs take a 3-2 lead over the Timberwolves.
The San Antonio Spurs' decisive, convincing 126-97 victory in Game 5.
The Sabres tie their series with the Canadiens.
Sabres win Game 4.
And Lane Kiffin calls out Ole Miss.
It's past the point of fun.
This is the Big 6 in 60, the 6 biggest national sports stories from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now. Thank you for making the Big 6 in 60 your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now and by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Victor Wembanyama powered the Spurs to a Game 5 rout and a 3-2 lead over Minnesota. Casey Vieira and Devin Brown with Locked On Spurs go inside the win.
The San Antonio Spurs' decisive, convincing 126-97 victory in Game 5 of the Western Conference semifinals. They have a 3-2 lead. They are one win away from getting back to the Western Conference Finals for the first time in a long time. My friend, again, it took a little bit of everybody. It was Victor. He had some moments, but to say it was just number one would be silly because it took a solid 15 to get this thing done tonight.
Absolutely. Welcome, everybody, to the show. Casey, we got some things to break down for Game 5. We're going to look forward a little bit to Game 6, a little bit. But let's have a great show. Let's do it.
This is what you'll be talking about.
All right. So as you know, Wemby kicked out of the game the other day for elbowing Naz Reid in the throat. So like I said from the jump, a lot of people were saying, oh, Victor's going to come back and he's going to have his measure of redemption and he's going to go completely nuclear on these Timberwolves because he is not happy. And through the first 6 minutes, all those people who were saying that, they were exactly correct because in the first 6 minutes of the game, not even, he scores 16 points. 16 points, and the Spurs open up a 24-9 lead. And go figure, Wemby resides to the bench, and promptly that lead gets cut all the way down to a 4-point margin at the end of the first quarter of play. Victor finishes with 18 in the first quarter at that 34-30 margin between the two. Spurs get off to a good start. Quick 9-0 spurt right off the rip to start the second quarter on high now. And it'd be kind of a continuous theme for this Spurs team to really, I guess, well, now that I say that, it was kind of runs on both sides. It really, I articulate this more now, and this was kind of really your cliche game of runs through the first three quarters. Spurs open up the second quarter on a 9-0 run, in part to Minnesota shooting 4 of 17. And as a result, the Spurs ultimately see themselves go up by 18. It's contributions not just from Victor. Keldon Johnson snapped out of his funk tonight. He had 8 points by the time they hit half, and ultimately the Spurs go up by 12 heading into the break. That's because they missed their final 8 shots heading into halftime, and they stayed equally as cool going into the other side of the break. Minnesota gets something going. And in part was because the Spurs just could not get that rhythm going in the half court at all in any capacity. And being so limited that Minnesota is on the offensive end outside of Anthony Edwards right now, the defense leading to offense is what ignites things. And ultimately 14-2 right from the second that 12-minute mark ticks down in the third quarter. And we're tied at 61. Insert Dylan Harper, insert Keldon Johnson midway through that third. And it completely changes the dynamic of the way the things were looking the rest of the way. Because after that 14-2 run to start the third, San Antonio, the rest of the quarter, check this out, closes on a 30-12 run and ultimately have an 18-point lead going into the fourth quarter. A couple flurries here and there from Minnesota to get within 11. But by the time it was, really time for the Spurs to call off the dog, so to speak, and I guess put away Minnesota for good. They did exactly that, and ultimately the math reads a 126-97 victory. Wemby, 27-17, 5 blocks or 5 assists, 3 blocks in the highly anticipated redemption matchup. Fox with 18 of 6 of 15 shooting. Keldon 21 points off the bench, his best showing of the postseason by far. Dylan Harper, 12 points, 10 rebounds, 5 of them from the offensive variety. Anthony Edwards had 20 in the defeat. It was impressive. It was impressive. They got knocked down a few times when Minnesota was off and running, and Spurs half court was looking ugly, and they responded, and they did it in a real impressive fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. To your first point, Wemby, being ejected from that game and, having to face your teammates as they're coming in after a tough loss in game 4, and then being around them for a day of practice, being on the plane, things like that, it wears on you. So as the best player, you have to step up, and that's what he did. He did that. He set the tone from the get-go. He was tremendous. We all know how Wemby is. He didn't want to let his teammates down again. So he came out, had a big game. The game itself, if you're Coach Mitch, when you get leads like that in the playoffs, you have to take it to another level and get rid of these teams, really, knock them down. But to Minnesota's credit, they were able to fight in there. And that was with their starters. Now, we've talked about this in the past where, they didn't get much out of AO, whatever. And out of, IO, whoever, and Shannon Jr. But that's the thing. That's what makes these teams good, is when your bench players on the road can kind of keep you in the game, and then your stars take over. Well, Minnesota, if you're looking at that, if you're looking at the game film, you didn't get that. You're going to need that in the next one to come back to San Antonio, just like San Antonio is going to need the others to step up and let Wemby try and win game 6. Same thing. So, and then my last point was Harper and Keldon. They were tremendous. That's what you need. I just talked about that right now. They came off the bench, Casey, and they were great. Harper was fantastic, not only offensively, but defensively. The blocks, the deflections. So, Casey, when you look at this, the Spurs did what they were supposed to do, take care of home, win game 5. Now, when you're going on the road, you should feel comfortable, Mitch should, with some of these guys coming off the bench. And if they have to play heavy minutes, you should feel good about that.
Yeah, Stephon Castle, he finished with 17 points, 4 boards, 6 assists. Minnesota was very hampered on the offensive side of the ball, even more so than what it has been. Ant played 39 minutes, and that was even kind of in a blowout situation. So if this game was competitive, there's a world that he probably would have finished with right around 45, so to speak. But Julius Randle gave them nothing. I don't want to say nothing, but close to 6 of 17 from the field. Rudy Gobert pretty much got played off the floor tonight. It felt like complete non-factor. Wemby was going at him, in that first quarter, that barrage. Maybe that's exactly what Victor needed to see. Right across from him. And I wonder if that kind of played a factor, because Victor from the jump, I really wouldn't be surprised if that part ignited it too, knowing that Gobert was in front of him, because Rudy, who has played okay in this series, who hasn't had a bad series, Gobert, but tonight, I mean, Victor just ate him up.
Yeah, well, Casey, I got to protect the player sometimes when, you heavyweights in the media, you guys go after certain players. But let's remember who he was guarding in the first series, the Joker. So he played tremendous. He's been tremendous up until this point. Hey, but at some point, Rudy's got to come back to earth. And that was tonight, Casey. I just wanted to mention that.
He did. In many respects. Spurs shoot 53% from the field this evening. They win the glass 50-42. Obviously big in that capacity. Minnesota held to less than 30% from 3, 27% from distance, 39 overall. Let's revisit that stretch in the middle of the third quarter, spearheaded by Keldon, spearheaded by Dylan Harper, which really turned things for the better.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
And for as well as the Spurs have played in this postseason, in these playoffs so far, Keldon largely, for the most part, has not really been a contributing factor to it. He's had his moments, but especially in this series, he's had a really hard time getting into that flow, whether it be the struggles just going, that bull in China shop doesn't particularly work great when you have Rudy and Randall and McDaniels
Yeah.
for you at the finish line. And he
Right.
never really was able to get into that flow through the first 4 games, it felt like. But tonight, he made his first 2 buckets. I think he needed that. And that settled him real solid. And then the rest of the way, when you got Dylan Harper out there, right there with you, igniting that fire, making you feel good, it helps in the cause. So it was good to see KJ bounce back tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Him and Harper were tremendous. And that's why we picked those guys for the turning point, because you saw it right there in that third quarter, Casey. He was playing his day. What I'm seeing out of the starters is these junk defenses, right? Where they're switching, they're double teaming and things like that. When you come in with Harper and Keldon, you're not having to do that. Now you have 5 solid guys out there playing defense. There's not a whole lot of overhelp, and that's what Minnesota is struggling with. And for about 3 or 4 minutes, they really struggled with that. The Spurs were able to pull, get a good lead, and, from there. So when you talk about, what Harper and Keldon did offensively, really, for me, it was really big, because you stack stops, 1 stop, 2, 3, 4, and that's why they were able to pull away.
Let's talk about where things kind of went wrong, I guess, prior to that, which the events that essentially prompted them to go to Harper, go to Keldon, and ignite things. Minnesota went into a 2-3 zone, and just knocked the Spurs out of whack.
Right.
They were all over the place.
Right.
Castle and Fox, excuse me. It felt like they were just kind of taking turns. I just said halfback dive. What they were doing, it was just going right into the paint, and and as a result, the way Minnesota is going to win these games, because they're so thin on the offensive side of the basketball right now, is to take advantage of your errant shots and your poor shot selection, which is exactly what it was in those first few minutes. It was awful. I think I actually texted you too. I was apparently they forgot Victor existed.
Yeah.
They completely veered away from him.
Hey, sometimes your eyesight messes up and you can't see the 7'5" guy. I don't know. It's weird. Yeah, it happens to you. Your vision, but it's crazy because you did text me that, and I'm just sitting there looking, and I'm like, no, what it is these guys are, you hear all these things about, hey, don't just go to Vic. Don't just go to Vic. Well, they were trying to force it to him, a lob here, a lob there, trying to get it to him. Minnesota is like sitting in a zone, and that's what made Tom Brady so good for years, is you got to pick apart that zone. But, De'Aaron Fox and Castle were not Tom Brady, so they kept turning it over. And then Mitch calls timeout, and the first play out of a timeout, which is very important to a coach, they turn it over again, trying to hit Victor in the middle of the lane. So that's what prompted Mitch to get those guys out of there, right? But it just seemed like they were trying to get it to Wemby, and then they were doing their own thing, trying to get in the lane. Minnesota's on a run, and then they push the ball up and try and get in the lane again. Yeah, that's going to be a downfall. You can't have that in Game 6. You got to make sure that you value the ball, value possessions. So it's going to be interesting to see, because and really the rest of the time you can't have those lapses, not for 5, 6, 7 minutes.
They went on a stretch in the middle of the third quarter there, where, well, actually, if you continue it to the back end, where they missed 8 consecutive shots to end the second, they missed 12 of 13. Excuse me, it was 13 of 14, and then 1 of 6 before Mitch made the sub, brought in Harper and Keldon, and the rest of the night wrote itself out from there. But it was listen, every playoff win is a good win. You take it. I was going to say it's a good win, beyond good win, and now a chance to do something they haven't done, like we said, get back to the Western Conference Finals for the first time in nearly a decade.
The NBA playoffs are here, and every possession matters. If you're looking to get even closer to the action, FanDuel has a great offer to get you started. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's right, turn $5 into $150 in bonus bets just for getting started. I like using FanDuel during the playoffs because everything I need is right there in one place. You can check stats, trends, and matchups before making your picks, which makes the whole experience feel a lot more informed. Whether you're looking at player props or following your favorite stars, it adds another level of excitement to every game. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Welcome back to the Big Six in 60. Zach Benson scored the third period winner on his birthday as the Sabres evened their series with the Canadiens. Locked On Sabres has the recap after the win.
Sabres win game 4, and they are heading home with the series tied at 2 games apiece. Lot to get to from this win. The Sabres were great all along the way. At 5-on-5, there are some penalty things to talk about, whether the calls were deserved, whether they were undisciplined calls. There's a lot on that front. I got a broadcast thought to get to. And, of course, how the lineup changes ended up working out. A big shift from Lindy Ruff. Konsta Helenius going in to the lineup in place of Sam Carrick. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen playing in goal, and Luke Shen getting the nod on the blue line. Lot to get to on this show. But how about the vibes, the feeling of that game, getting home? And the third period was as stressed as I think I've ever been as a Sabres fan. I mean, it took years off my life. I mean, I have never smoked a cigarette, and I was as close as I ever have been after that third period. Like, give me a cig, because I needed, oh my God, I don't know what I needed. I needed something after that game was over, because it was just anxiety through the roof. I really didn't ever feel that confident. It's just kind of how the night went, right? Like, the night felt like it was built to go against Buffalo, whether that was the officiating, whether that was the broadcast, Ray Ferraro specifically, whether that was the review process in the first period. Somehow that Jack Quinn goal doesn't count, and he still does not have a goal in these playoffs. We'll talk about that review as well, but the Sabres persevered, and I thought, played a very hard-fought game. They had as many block shots in this game as any game in the postseason, and they deserve a lot of credit for digging in and winning a game like that. And we're starting to see a trend here of the same guys that are stepping up for them in big moments and that are playing the best. There's no doubt right now that through however many games, I don't know what you want the number to be here, 4, 5, 6, that for the last week or two, Zach Benson is the Buffalo Sabres' best player. It's not Tage Thompson right now. It's not Rasmus Dahlin right now. It's not even Matthias Samuelsson, who I thought had a tremendous night. Benson is their best player. He is their best player right now. And that is an incredible nod to him, because he's a good player, and he has been throughout his entire Sabres career. And he has been an analytics darling. He's been a worker. He's been a guy that is a little bit slept on because he doesn't always put up the big numbers. But here he is now in the postseason with 4 goals in 10 games played, and he's never scored more than 13 in an 82-game regular season. So the goal scoring is up. He's producing on the power play now, and every shift he is all over the puck. Of course, he is an amazing player for them right now, and he's their best guy. He's a big reason why he scores the game-winning goal in the third period. Really nice to see Benson get it. Listen to Lindy Ruff after postgame, and I kind of want to start here with what Lindy led off with, which is that they were great out of the gates, that the Sabres came ready to play in game number 4, that they were far and away the better team through 8-10 minutes of hockey, far out shooting the Montreal Canadiens. I think shots were 10-2 at one point in time. Sabres had all the chances. It should have been 2-0 in the first half of that first period. The Sabres were playing great, and they were all over the puck. I thought the top line of Tage Thompson, Alex Tuch, and also Peyton Krebs, who I'll get to more so in a minute, played incredible in those first couple of shifts. I didn't love how they played after that, but they were buzzing on those first few shifts. You had shots from the point that were getting through, traffic in front, and it was all four lines. I mean, there's a couple of chances there by Benson and Doan, and they end up contributing to the goal, right? Samuelson, it goes from Doan carrying it in across to Norris, across to Samuelson, who jumps up into play. And that's one right there where, listen, I think Samuelson's getting a little bit of heat for the Newhook goal, Alex Newhook scoring to make it 1-1 in the first period, because he left the zone when the Sabres looked like they were about to get it out. And maybe you want to argue that that was a tad early, but I'm not blaming Samuelson on that one because of what you saw in the first goal. You got to live and die by this blue line being aggressive and jumping up into plays. It is what makes them so special offensively, is how active those guys are. So yeah, Samuelson's cheating the zone a little bit because it does look like they're going to get it out, and they should have gotten it out. They had 4 opportunities between Mallenstein and Greenway's digging in there and McLeod. Like, someone's got to get that puck out, and then you might have an odd man rush. That's why you're doing that. And by the way, real quick, while we're on the Newhook goal, Samuelson's not the problem there. Byram is the problem. Bo Byram takes a look, sees Newhook cutting to the middle, has every opportunity to get there and win the battle, and he doesn't. And he just gets outworked on the play by Newhook. So I didn't even think Samuelson was the culprit, really, of that goal. But on the first goal, he's jumping right up into the play to make it a 4-on-3. And sure, what's your risk? If you don't successfully enter the zone or there's a bad turnover and that puck gets caught up in Doan's feet, I mean, it could have gone the other way, that you're going to have a 2-on-1 for Montreal. And that's the risk. But what's the payoff? Okay, if we get into the zone and we get a clean pass across, I got an open one-timer across the ice with a goalie that's out of position because he's focused on the other side of the ice, and I get a goal because of the risk of Samuelson jumping up in the play. So you got to live and die with it. So that line had a great chance, though, there. Mallenstein had a great one-time look early in the first period. Like, every line was cooking in the first 10 minutes of the game. And I do think that we got to talk about the instant replay reviews, because that, I think, probably hurt the momentum of the Sabres. They are shift after shift winning against Montreal, and then they go to commercial break, first one of the game, I believe, and you take a couple of minutes there, right? And then they couldn't have done this, I guess, during commercial. Now let's go to review. That Toronto called down and the puck might have crossed the line, and we're going to spend 5 minutes looking at this play. I had not in the moment thought it went across, but I thought absolutely the right call when you merge the two replay reviews together, that Quinn scored. That puck was in the net. It was in the glove of Dobish, and that was behind the goal line. And then we get this challenge from Montreal, and Lindy said he hated the decision, and I have to agree with him. And you actually saw a lot of people defending the challenge, saying that, well, yeah, and Paul Bissonnette was one of these people who got dogged by Sabre fans online tonight, and he should have. The guy has become Drake. He's just front running with whatever team is doing better at that moment. And in that moment, he's like, yeah, and this wasn't just Bissonnette. A lot of people are saying this. Yeah, it is not a goal that should count because Quinn connects with Dobish's glove after he shoots it and pushes it in. And then we get they don't tell us why they overturned it. They just say we're overturning it. And then we get the email from NHL.com from the Situation Room a few minutes later that said, no, it was Helenius who interrupted his ability or prevented him from having an opportunity to make the save. Like, well, wait a minute. He did make the save. He was there, but the puck just happened to cross the line. What are you talking about? He didn't have an opportunity to make the save. He was there ready to make it. And you watch the replay review 1,000 times, and you are never going to find a spot here where Helenius is affecting Dobish at all to make the save. In fact, the Montreal defender coming in after the fact does way more to stop Dobish from making a clean save than Helenius did. So I think it was a horrific call, and the ultimate puck don't lie. The ultimate hockey god saying bleep these refs in this game. Because, yeah, 1,000%, the Sabres got incredibly lucky that a Tage Thompson shoot-in the second period goes off the boards in a very funny way and goes out towards Dobish, who's in his own crease. The puck is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour and lands on the top of his pad and spins back into the net. Yeah, it's a magical, lucky goal, but it's puck don't lie, because the Sabres should have had a goal earlier in the first period. They got robbed of 10 minutes of real time where they could have been continuing how well they were playing. Montreal gets to reset a little bit halfway through the first period. That goal was deserved. Maybe not in that moment, maybe not on that shoot-in, but from earlier in the first period, the Thompson goal in the second period, were the hockey gods saying, yeah, wait a minute, you deserve that one. They shouldn't have taken that away from you. Here, we'll give you this one. And then the Benson goal in the third period, which technically was your second power play goal of the game. Sabres power play numbers end up looking pretty good right now in the series, and gave Benson his flowers a little bit earlier, but it's a great play overall. And that unit, good on Lindy and Seth Appert. They have tried a lot of things this year, and most of them have not worked. Having the final wherewithal, last gasp maybe of the season, what is one last thing we could try to do on this power play and have it work? They finally just decided, let's just put our two hardest working dudes on that unit and merge them with Tage, merge them with Dahlin. I don't love Quinn on that unit at all. A lot of poor decisions, but it's more about the other four, Benson and Doan. And they've also given up, I think, on the Tage one-timer. That is no longer plan A. Not to say they would never do it, but that it was always for years. Plan A is we're going to move this puck around, get Tage open, and let him blast off. That's the goal of their power play, usually. Over the last 3 games, it's very clear. The goal of their power play is to get the puck to Josh Doan on the goal line, down low. And you create a little bit of a 3-on-2 low at the net, and you're creating chances that way. That's what happens here. Quinn is boxing out his man on the side of the net. Benson is alone in front. Doan actually puts it a little bit on his front foot too much, but Benson's got the hands and has got the ability to finish on his backhand. You have a new way of attacking on this power play, and it is working. And Tage is actually doing a decent job on the faceoffs. And Norris, being the main faceoff guy in the man advantage, has not been needed as much. But in terms of battling through, the Sabres battled through not just that terrible review, they also battled through some horrific penalty calls. Now, they deserved a lot of them, and that was more so in the second period. Because in the second period, Byram high-sticking on Anderson, Dahlin interference on Caulfield, throwing him into the net, Byram a double minor for high-sticking on Tessier in the second period. Those 3 calls in the second were bad penalties by the Sabres. But in the first, they, to me, hardly deserved any of the 4 that they got. Dahlin on Gulli. That is not a penalty on Rasmus Dahlin. Sure, he's running interference there. Every team in the league does that. It's the playoffs. And maybe we have to stop saying that. They're calling light stuff in every series that I'm seeing. I don't know why the NHL decided this, but this year, you have all of these warnings to teams about scrums, which never has been the case, and you have the softest calls being made. I don't know why the NHL decided to get so soft in the playoffs, but here they are. They've decided that. So Dahlin gets interference against Caden Gulli. If you're purposely skating into him and leaning into him, I get it. That is interference. But Dahlin does the right thing. Yeah, he got in his lane on purpose, but then he starts fading away from Gulli. That is what you're supposed to do. And they called Dahlin for interference anyway. He was despondent because he's right. That was a horrible call. Jason Zucker on Joseph Veleno. Okay, you could argue that was the worst of the 4. That's another one where in past years, it's the playoffs, dude. What are you talking about? That's a penalty. Shoving a guy one little extra shove into the boards. That's not a penalty. Peyton Krebs. I guess the Krebs and Bolduc matching minors is fine. Thompson, this was the worst one. Thompson on Gulli. Man, Caden Gulli, he's going to have a great time at the Academy Awards next year because that dude deserves an Oscar for tonight. Between the contact on Dahlin and throwing himself to the ground after that, and then to go down as easily as he did when Tage tapped him. He doesn't even really push off with the cross check. Again, that's one where you could sit there and say Tage made a mistake. Don't even put the ref in that situation. How can it be a mistake when in no world should that ever be a penalty? It should not be a penalty. So the refs were totally against the Sabres early in this game. And maybe there were a couple of makeup calls along the way, makeup no calls in the third period, but they usually swallow their whistles in the third anyway, so that might not have been what it was. But whatever. They were battling against the refs in this game, especially in the first period.
Minnesota got buried in Game 5 by San Antonio as Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs pushed the Wolves to the brink. Ben Beacon with Locked On Wolves breaks down what went wrong.
Lots to get into here, Jack. Biggest turning point, where it all went wrong, right? Biggest second guess, plus what we'll be talking about tomorrow. Let's just jump right into it, though. Game 5 back in San Antonio. You sent me this earlier in the day. In NBA postseason history, Game 5 winners have gone on to win 82% of the time when tied 2 apiece in a best-of-7 series, according to ESPN research. Something to keep in mind, obviously, as we watch this one unfold the way it did. Rough first half for the Wolves, just a lot of lethargic offense, no ball movement, no creativity, too many turnovers. Defense wasn't much better. They go into the locker room down 12. Spurs led as many as 18 in that first half. Second half, Wolves come out, huge surge, blink of an eye, don't get up, go to the bathroom because they're tied back up at 61 apiece. Unfortunately, though, that was about as good as it got. 30-12 explosion by the Spurs. That just kind of sent the Wolves spiraling. They could never really crawl their way back from that. Wolves now in do-or-die territory back at home Friday night. But, Jack, what stuck out the most here? What's top of your mind right now from a big picture lens after this?
Yeah, top of my mind, big picture lens. I just think that it feels like this series is pretty cooked for the Wolves, just in the sense that the margins are just razor thin, and the non-negotiable for the Timberwolves in this series is that you got to play hard and got to play more physical. And in this series, I think that the team that's played harder and played more physical has won every single game. And the difference is that when the Wolves do that, they can eke out games, and when the Spurs do that, they can run you off the floor. And it's just really hard to win a basketball game in the postseason when you dig yourself a huge hole early on the road. Right, 22-4 run put the Wolves in a 15-point hole. Victor Wembanyama was fantastic in his return to the floor. Had 16 points in that first quarter. And then from there, just felt like the Spurs played way harder than the Wolves, especially on the glass, right? I mean, through 3 quarters, Dylan Harper is what, a 6'5", 6'6" guard. Had as many offensive rebounds, 5, as the entire Timberwolves team, again, through the third quarter. In this game tonight, Rudy and Ant each only had 2 defensive rebounds, which is pretty putrid. And again, just to speak to the physicality, I love the way that Keldon Johnson came in and played for the Spurs off the bench. Was really intentional about trying to beat guys off the dribble, get into the paint, use his shoulders and his off arm to be able to create space and finish inside. And again, you're looking for guys that can do that. I mean, the Wolves have Naz Reid, the Spurs have Keldon Johnson, and tonight Johnson got the better of Reid in that aspect. And so that was a huge energy boost for them. And to think that, they had 2 guys coming off the bench and Johnson and Harper that gave them 33 points was pretty massive. And the Wolves tonight, just 23 bench points. So that was an issue as well. And then, to go on top of the effort piece, just guys aren't getting back. And when guys are getting back, there are just so many cross matches for San Antonio that allow them to, be able to more effectively hunt guys defensively and make it harder for the Timberwolves to set up their defense the way that they are, right? I mean, you can't lose on the glass and in transition. The Wolves lost 50-42 on the glass and 19-14 in transition. So those 2 things are problematic. And then just, I thought offensively, right? Obviously it's important to remember the context of Ant not being 100% and not trying to go too hard on him. But And obviously that he didn't get the requisite help that he needed, especially from Randall and Jaden McDaniels early in the game and Rudy Gobert, et cetera. But Ant makes his own life a lot harder, and that he walks the ball up the floor and then stops 2 feet inside the half court line, playing right into what the Spurs want to do. It basically turns a double team into a triple team, because not only do you have the 2 defenders in front of you, but then you have to worry about the half court line. It makes it much harder to make passes to the next defender, and then the next offensive teammate up top. And then it makes it harder for that guy to either drive or pass to another teammate because he's so far away from the basket. And so again, that just, I think, puts the Wolves in a place where they're not starting their kind of offensive sets early enough in the shot clock. I mean, there's 11 seconds left on the shot clock before anybody tries to do anything with the basketball, which is obviously not what you want. And I think it's an area, where they really miss Dante DiVincenzo, right?
Yeah,
I think time. Obviously his 3-point shooting would be huge right beside that double team, but I think Dante also just does things quick, whether he does things right or wrong, makes a good play or a turnover or whatever, he does it quickly. And I appreciate that. And then for Ant as well, only three 3-point attempts in this game just can't happen, and only 13 shot attempts. I think a lot of people will cape and say, Ant's getting doubled the whole entire time, but he did not work hard enough off the ball to get off to, fight off defenders and get open. And I think a lot of that stemmed to do with how tired he was. And I think for Ant, I think these 2 days off are going to be really big for him. And I think that the Wolves just need a more aggressive version of Ant if they're going to be successful and force a game 7, right? And, outside of Ant, the margin is just razor thin, Luke. I mean, you can't have 3 guys that give you nothing. I mean, Julius Randle gave you nothing. It was a classic Randle, start playing hard once the game's out of reach in the fourth quarter. Rudy Gobert gave you absolutely nothing. TJ Shannon almost gave you nothing. At least he made some good passes, had 4 assists in this game. And then lastly, injuries. I thought Ayo Dosunmu looked by far the best he's looked since he came back. So that's obviously, a good thing for the Wolves to hopefully try to, have another guy in the backcourt that can do something. And then Dylan Harper, I thought, looked awfully limited the first 2.5 quarters, but then closed the game really strong for San Antonio. So hopefully he'll be all right for the rest of the series for them, and then potentially into the Western Conference Finals. But yeah, for the Wolves, it just boils down to Ant playing into the Spurs' hands, Julius Randle not doing anything to help Ant out, not playing hard enough, and getting out physical, and those are all tough things to put in a game and expect to be able to win a game on the road.
Welcome back to the Big Six in 60. Lane Kiffin stirred up Ole Miss again with comments about recruiting challenges after his move to LSU. Stephen Willis with Locked On Ole Miss sorts through the fallout.
An LSU radio host just wrote that what every honest LSU fan is thinking, this Ole Miss LSU rivalry for September 19th, it's past the point of fun. Chris Marler at LouisianaSports.net wrote a column yesterday, headline, Kiffin, Ole Miss feud boiling to a potentially dangerous level. The headline got clicks. The actual take got buried. He had a graphic that went with it about cancel the game, essentially. But Chris Marler's real point was Lane Kiffin has pushed this rivalry past the point of fun for this game. He knows the game isn't getting canceled, okay? But it is at a tipping point. And here's the truth that nobody on the LSU side will say out loud. It's 100% Lane Kiffin's fault. 100%. Stay with me, everydayers. I will walk you through what Marler wrote and the 5 receipts that prove this is all on Kiffin and why Ole Miss isn't saying a word and doesn't have to. Marler's first quote, it might be time to seriously consider canceling LSU's September trip to Oxford. That caused you to start thinking a little bit. If that game got canceled, it would only benefit LSU, and I don't think LSU thinks they're going to win that. In one of the couple of redos that Lane Kiffin did in his articles across college football, he mentioned that this is going to be a slow build. We might be better in year 2 or year 3 than we're going to be in year 1. The reality is Ole Miss has a better roster as it sits right now and is going to be the favorite in that football game. So kind of start deflecting and turning attention away from a loss that could be coming on September 19th. Anyway, later on in the column, he quoted they're not going to cancel that game, but here's some legitimate reasons at least to consider it. And the line that tells you his real point, I hope it's over soon because it's not fun anymore. And that's the point. This thing has gone way past normal rivalry fun. And it is because of Lane Kiffin stoking this rivalry. Marler isn't predicting a cancellation. He's writing an obituary for what used to be a fun thought of game. On that point, Marler's right. But do not get this twisted, okay? Marler is not on Ole Miss's side in any of this. Same column, Marler wrote that Ole Miss fan is, quote, Latin for if you ever leave us for a better program, we will haunt you in your dreams every day for the next 8 months. Marler also argued that Kiffin should have left for, quote, a better program with an actual track record of winning national titles post landing on the moon. I could argue that Ole Miss was the last SEC team in last year's college football playoff, and one pass interference call missed away from potentially playing for the national title. But hey, that only happened, 4 months ago? Who knows? Listen, we're not haunting Coach Spraytan's dreams because we're crazy, Marler. We're mad because he abandoned the team mid-college football playoff run, a team that could win the national championship. He left for a program that he thought could win a national championship and left a program that was in the process of playing for a national championship. How he left, what he did, the stuff that you're seeing right now, he was doing that in Oxford, Mississippi in November. Nobody was paying attention because everybody wanted the coach. And here's what nobody else is telling you about right now. The 5 receipts of why this is 100% Lane Kiffin's fault. Receipt 1, Coach Spraytan left mid-college football playoff run on November 30th, 2025. While the team was active in the playoffs, no coach in modern SEC history has done that, period. Ole Miss fans have a reason to feel away because of just that fact, period. Receipt number 2, the Vanity Fair article that he gave this week. He gave a 4-hour interview and dropped the girl we know to inferior girlfriend quote. It was intent to be a shot. It was taken as a shot. It is going to be the bulletin board material for Ole Miss for roughly the next decade in this rival. Compared Ole Miss to a worse romantic partner, right? In a national magazine 4 months before the game. Receipt number 3. Coach George Hamilton took a diversity shot at Oxford. Completely Bush League type stuff. He's had to apologize for this comment multiple times. Dropped a segregation line. And on one of my other shows that I'm on during the week, I talked about this. It doesn't matter that he apologized for saying it. This quote got in print, and it's going to be used in recruiting over and over and over again. So at ESPN, he gave the full apology. He walked back with what was going on with Vanity Fair as well. Receipt number 5, Lane Kiffin signed a 7-year, $91 million contract with LSU. That's the only number that explains this timeline. That's the only thing that's absolutely defensible. That's the only thing that you need to concern yourself with because everything else is just noise. He left Ole Miss for LSU for money for players, for money for his wallet, all of that stuff. That is the only thing that he should be saying, and he should be keeping his mouth shut about Ole Miss. Because if he did that, you would not have this nuclear bomb getting ready to go up on September 19th. So I need you to hear this part. Ole Miss isn't talking. I am. Notice who's been quiet. Pete Golding hasn't said a word about the Vanity Fair piece. Not one quote. Trinidad Chambliss has not said a word. Kejuan Lacey hasn't said a word. Keith Carter, the Ole Miss AD, pushed back once on ESPN, and that was it. The entire Ole Miss program is doing what classy programs do when the other guy is digging his own grave. They're letting him dig. Ole Miss isn't talking because Ole Miss doesn't have to. The receipts speak for themselves. He is the one trying to defend the indefensible. Vanity Fair printed Coach Spraytan's own quotes. Marler confirmed that the rivalry is past the point of fun in the article that I did on LouisianaSports.net. Ole Miss can stay quiet. I'm the one talking because Lane Kiffin earned this heat from me, period. What Martler got right and what he got wrong, though, what he got right, Lane Kiffin pushed this rivalry past the point of fun. The tipping point is absolutely here. September 19th is the date circled. What he got wrong, he framed it as both fan bases equally share the blame. They don't. One coach abandoned his team mid-playoff. People got upset about that. One coach gave Vanity Fair the inferior girlfriend quote. One coach took the diversity shot. One coach had to apologize twice because he knew what he did was wrong. That coach is Coach Spraytan. And the heat he is getting is heat that he earned from me and everybody else. Every day or circle September 19th on the calendar of the permanent marker. Coach Spraytan gets exactly what he earned. The game itself will speak. I keep telling you the truth, and I will keep telling you the truth until then because somebody has to in this whole deal. End of debate.
Welcome back to the Big Six in 60. The NFL schedule has started to leak, and the Chiefs' Week 1 matchup is a Monday night opener against the Broncos. Ryan Tracy and Chris Clark with Locked On Chiefs explain the matchup.
The Chiefs will play Week 1, Monday Night Football, against a division rival. And Matt, this is the stuff before we let Chris explode this show. Monday Night Football against a division foe, Week 1, Mahomes coming off the ACL. I mean, the stars are aligning for something that I'm either going to love or I'm going to hate. I did not expect this. Did you?
I'm a little surprised. I mean, when Dick Jacobs and I talked about our ideas for the model and the schedule on 41 is the mic on the weekend, this was one of the possibilities that the NFL is just going to go ahead and just plan the Chiefs as usual. I mean, there's only about 3 games on the schedule that you would say are dogs enough that you could, plug them at noon kickoffs or, the third game in a regional 3:00 window or something, and nobody's going to care. But at the same time, I mean, the Chiefs are going to have like 12, 13 games that are games that matter and against big opponents. And you're going to want to put those in big windows. And you can't, as a result of that, you can't just shove everything in November and December. You're going to have September games too. So the idea is that, hey, you're probably going to see a sprinkling of a couple of relevant games early. Doesn't mean that the Chiefs are going to play, 4 primetime games in the first 4 weeks, but they're bound to play some big games early. I'm not, I don't think that the Broncos and Chiefs make great fights, so I'm not expecting a great game. But, it's two teams that, are going to be fighting for the division likely. So to the NFL, it's a big product.
I hate it.
I need to hear.
There's so many things about this I hate. Quite frankly, and I don't think this will be the case. I want to be clear when I say this. I don't think this will end up happening. But you have a possibility that you don't have Knicks or Mahomes out there. It's possible you don't have either of them coming back from injuries. I would suspect that's not the case. I would suspect that they're both going to play. At least Knicks is probably more likely, I think, than Mahomes. But I think they'll both end up going. But I don't like this just because of the fact that why are you doing this? Why are you giving them a primetime game in a game that Mahomes is coming back from an injury against one of the best defenses in football, or at least has been one of the best defenses in football for years, and you're going to put him out there against that team coming off an ACL tear? I don't think it's a good decision. And I will tell you, I don't like the game, but I hate even more looking on X and seeing the response from Broncos fans and Broncos analysts and anybody that wants to talk Broncos, because everybody's up in arms saying this game should be in Denver because the Broncos beat the Chiefs twice last year and they were in the AFC Championship game. Yeah, exactly. Cry me a freaking river. The Chiefs for 9 years dominated this division, and you're sitting here trying to act like you should be entitled to something. And quite frankly, I think they're idiots for their take anyway, because if I'm Denver,
I would rather play Mahomes at home with the playoffs on the line in December versus trying to play Mahomes at Arrowhead in December.
This is why you don't check X for reaction, Matt. Just stay off of it.
I just.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt that some of the Broncos fans' reactions about the the host in week 1, you didn't win the Super Bowl.
It's not just the fans, though. It's the analysts, too. It's people that actually talk about the team. I'm like, I'm sorry. I need to shut up. Matt, you're the guest. I will let you go.
No. I'm with you here. I'm backing you up. I mean, didn't the Chiefs win the Super Bowl and open the season in Era freaking Zona? I mean, there's no just, hey, you had a winning season. Here's week 1 for you. No, that's not the way this thing works. So,
well, and as Ryan said, I think it was Ryan, maybe it was you that even said this. I don't remember. One of you guys said the situation is actually not in the Chiefs' favor regardless, because you're going up against Patrick Mahomes coming off an injury and not knowing that he's going to get any time in the preseason. Good luck having him even be fully ready in going into week 1, let alone just playing at a normal Mahomes level. This whole scenario is crap to me. I think that the NFL made a huge mistake in this. And if they really want to put a primetime Patrick Mahomes versus Denver game, do it in November, do it in December. Don't do it in September when you know he's coming back from an injury. And you have Nix, who like I said, I think is going to be playing. But what happens if both of those guys have some issue that comes up and you have Justin Fields versus Denver Broncos backup? Is it Stidham still, or is it somebody else? I don't even know who it is right now.
Doesn't really matter, does it?
Doesn't really matter. No, it doesn't matter who the Chiefs backup is either. So,
right.
Although if I give me some rookie action in week 1, I'm going to be happy.
There's a lot of things that, just from I think Chris is absolutely right. From the league reaction across the board and everything, I particularly do like the one about the Broncos going for another win against the Chiefs, and since Sean Payton's been there, I mean, they're is it 3-1 now?
Yeah. How many of those wins came against Mahomes?
Well, exactly. They only won 2 of those one of those against Mahomes, right? Because one was Chris Oladokun, and another one was Carson Wentz.
Yes.
So you can't really count either one of those games if you're the Broncos as wins.
Oh, my favorite one was we're a blocked field goal away from the Broncos dominating to be 4-0 against Mahomes in the past 2 years, and I'm sitting there going, seriously?
And this brings it back to what I'm saying about, styles make fights. And these are two teams that the style that they play against one another, not a good fight, because of those 4 games that have been played now in the Sean Payton era, none of them have been good games. Even the blocked field goal game was not a good game. It was a great ending. It was an exciting ending, but that was like the only exciting play in the game. I mean, that game was, you're at the end there thinking, well, Broncos got this one wrapped up. I mean, there was no, that game was a boring game. It wasn't like you're on the edge of your seat. And, you also played a couple of blowouts in there too, when the game didn't matter to either team. And so we don't have a huge sample size of important games, but also the NFL is telling you what it thinks of this game, which, and part of that involves understanding what Monday Night Football means in the current NFL environment. Because in week 1, it's the 5th biggest game of the week. Sunday night, 3:25 on Sunday afternoon, the Wednesday night opener, I guess this year, or Wednesday night, Australia opener, or I can't keep track of it. No, Wednesday night is Thursday night football. Thursday night is Australia football. So, in the NFL's mind, those are all bigger windows than opening night on September 14th for Monday Night Football. Probably more viewers in those games normally. Now, Chiefs Broncos will probably draw more because it's a bigger names. But I don't think it's going to be a great game. It'll be, and whoever wins it, it's going to be a big deal. It's not going to be a devastating loss for anybody but the Chiefs. Chiefs can't lose at home coming off 6-11. They need to win that game. For the Broncos, it's not huge. It's a road game. It's big because it's a divisional game, but the other way around, I think would have been worse for the Chiefs. If the Chiefs had to play at Denver and lose, that's a big one. I mean, they have to hold ground. I mean, there's no doubt about this. You can't lose a home divisional game at any point, but losing one off 6-11, week one, in front of everybody, don't want to do that. You want to send a message.
Welcome back to the Big Six in 60. Detroit heads to Buffalo in week 2 for the first regular season game at the Bills' new Highmark Stadium. Matt Derry with Locked On Lions previews the stage.
The NFL announced that the Buffalo Bills will open up their new stadium with the home debut. Week 2, Thursday Night Football on Prime, September 17th against the Lions. The Lions' toughest road game, at least outside of the division, is going to come in week 2, Thursday Night Football in Buffalo, 8:15 on Prime Video. So we know week 2, Lions, Bills. Week 10, Lions in Germany at 9:30 in the morning. We also know that according to reports, it will not be the Giants playing the Lions in Munich, Germany in week 10. Those are the leaks so far as the full schedule will be out. And I'm sure things will sprinkle in later today, tomorrow, and everything else in discussing and get ready for this 2026 Lions campaign. But let me tell you something. When I saw this news yesterday about Detroit going to Buffalo for a night game in week 2, which is pretty early in the year for a Thursday night game for the Lions, I loved it. This excites me in a big way. And I'll tell you why, for a couple reasons. Number one, and I think we mentioned this the last 2 days that we've done. We went over end of last week, ESPN.com's power rankings. Yesterday, we mentioned NFL.com's power rankings. Both of those outfits, ESPN and NFL.com, both have the Bills as top 5 teams going into this season. New coach, no more Sean McDermott. Joe Brady takes over. Bills have added in free agency. They've gotten some more help for Josh Allen. And people feel like this is the year that Buffalo kind of really takes off again. And if you recall, 2 years ago, when the Lions played the Bills at Ford Field, it was an unbelievable game. It was a great game. Unfortunately, the Bills came out on top, but it was an excellent football game, and Josh Allen put on a show and everything else. And to be playing in prime time early in the year on the road is a great test for your football team. And the Lions have played very well in these games the last few years. Early season in Baltimore last year for Monday Night Football, Lions took care of the Ravens. 2 years ago, Lions went into Houston, took care of the Texans on Sunday Night Football. Lions opened their season. What year was that? 2023 or the 24 season? 2023 season. Open up the year in Kansas City against the Chiefs. Took care of Kansas City. Thursday Night Football to open the season and stun the Chiefs. Dan Campbell's teams early in the season have gone in and won road games at night that nobody thought they would win. And they've been dominant doing this. Now you're playing on Amazon Prime, opening up the Bills' new stadium in week 2, which likely means that the Lions, I would think, would open up week 1 on what day would that be? So that would be Sunday, September 13th. I'm assuming that would be a home game. I don't think the Lions are going to start off the year with a road game on a Sunday the 13th and have to go to Buffalo just days later. You would figure that week 1 would be not only the season opener, but the home opener as well. But I love it. Lions have shown they can win these types of games early in the year, when healthy, when fresh. And so I'm excited about this, man, for the Bills to be opening up their new stadium against the Lions. Detroit getting that primetime game. That's a heavyweight matchup, man. Josh Allen, Jared Goff, these two teams. I think it's great. So I'm excited about it. Buffalo has been really good for a long time. And a lot of people were surprised when Sean McDermott was fired. But Allen, toward the end of last season, was kind of running for his life. And the Bills' season ended disappointingly early in the playoffs again. But they've been a juggernaut for the last few years and a team that has perennially been in the AFC Championship game, not been able to get over the hump yet. The same goes for the Lions on the NFC side, who, of course, made an appearance a couple of years ago in the NFC title game. So very excited about this. Right now, again, as I look, you're looking at week 2, Thursday night, week 10, Sunday in Germany. And that's all we know as of right now. Of course, the Lions will be playing home games with the Bears, Packers, Vikings, Patriots, Saints, Giants, Jets, Bucks, and Titans. And the road games, we've already talked about Buffalo, Chicago, Green Bay, Minnesota, Arizona, Atlanta, the Panthers, and the Dolphins. So I'm loving the early season in Buffalo. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's all for today's Big 6 in 60. If you follow basketball, football, or college sports, the Big 3 in 30 has a half hour on the biggest news in the NFL, the NBA, and on campus, going up every weekday just like this show. Just search the Big 3 in 30 NBA, the Big 3 in 30 NFL, or the Big 3 in 30 college, wherever you're listening or watching now. Thanks again for tuning in to the Big 6 in 60.